Hey guys, how you doing? We're going to talk about one of our favorite e-commerce platforms, Shopify. So we're going to do a quick walkthrough of Shopify, show you kind of a tour of how to set things up. We're going to be developing a more in-depth course that will be step-by-step for everything that you might run into with Shopify. But this one's just going to give you a taste of how to get started with Shopify and how to set up your own store. We're also going to do another one that is specifically for dropshipping. So if you are interested in doing that, we'll show you how to integrate the apps and all that kind of stuff and get that set up. But in the meantime, let's talk about Shopify. All right, so if you want to set up a Shopify store, it is easy. We will put a link in our description to do so. And you just click the start a free trial. It is going to ask you a whole bunch of questions and that type of stuff to get started. We're going to skip all of that. It's going to help refine your experience. Where's your business located? And then you can sign up for an account. We're going to skip some of this because we actually have a partner account. And so what we're going to do is just add a store. So the process for doing this is very similar to what you would be setting up. We're just going to do a test name here. So we're going to just click, instead of building a store for a client, we're going to just do a test and build. And we're going to call it Apotheca Test Store. Okay. Out of the gate, it's going to give you this My Shopify URL. So this is, when you publish the site, this will be accessible through this. So until you get an actual domain name, an associated domain name with your site, you could theoretically use this. Obviously, it's not the best from a SEO standpoint and stuff like that. Build version, current release, and let's start with some test data. And this will give us, that way we can show you the products and stuff like that because it'll pre-populate it. All right, so this is creating our store. And this is your dashboard. So from here is where you get, once your store is running, you'll get information about your store here, analytics and that type of thing. But these are the main sections of the site. So when you get orders, you will have that data in here, as well as customers and that kind of thing. Analytics. The online store is where you'll go to develop your store and actually develop the design. You can do blog posts, set up custom pages, and that kind of thing. The important place to start, however, is products. So you can see the reason I selected this is because it does have some products in here so that we can populate the design with these test products or sample products. And we'll go through this in a little bit more detail in a minute, but let's go back to the online store. And then from here, you can install a default theme, which is Dawn usually. I think that's the one. They will offer free themes down here. You can also visit the theme store to purchase themes or to look for other themes. The themes really just give you a basis to start designing, so you can just plug content in, and it will save you a lot of time. We do have certain themes that we've used with a lot of our clients. We can put a link to them in the description so that you can see that one. The designed themes, especially by companies that work very closely with Shopify, have a lot more features to them. So it gives you a lot more flexibility in your design and layout and all that kind of stuff without having to write custom code. The free ones are not bad, but they do not have the same kind of flexibility. So we're going to choose free here, and we'll look at the different themes. Based on the products that you're going to be selling, you'll see that these all have different layouts. And so really what you want to look for is the type of navigation that you want, the type of layout and kind of feel to it, what kind of footer is involved and that kind of stuff. So those are good. Refresh is already added here, so we'll just add that. Refresh is a decent theme. All right, so now we've clicked on customize the theme, and you can see that it's very basic at this point. But what we want to look at is the sections here. So we have various sections of the site, like the area where we can add our menu and add navigation, the look and feel of the navigation. We can add our logo and that type of thing. And here we can start to edit the wording and the look and feel of the images on the site. So we can explore free images, for instance. And depending on the type of site that you are, let's say that it's men's fashion, and we can look for free images. That's not necessarily great, but it's not bad. So we can look at the different free images here. Let's do something in the fall. There we go. So they're working outside. Let's select that. We're walking outside. And then you can change the copy. So and then you can change subheading and change the button copy. So, and then from here you can click where you want the button to lead you and all that kind of thing. So you can see that this is extremely flexible with giving you, all the different areas that you can change within these sections. And then you can see how this is going to look on mobile and desktop. One of the things that we see a lot of times with clients is they only look at the desktop, and most people are visiting their site on mobile. So it's important to make sure that you're looking to see how mobile looks and how you're setting that up for that. So that is the main slide section. There's a header section. You can also add sections in this. So if you want to have, for instance, a featured collection, you can put that in here. And so now you can see there's two featured products up here and a featured collection. A collection is really in Shopify is just a category. And so you can categorize that. We'll show you how to do that in a minute. But so this featured collection, you can change the look and feel to this. You can change the heading size. You can change what it's called. And the layout, how many products are in there, how many rows are in there. So you have a lot of different flexibility. So you can say, so maximum number of products is 4, and you can change the collection and whatnot. So that's adjustable. And when you have multiple categories like this, like say I change my mind, I don't want this one, I can remove it or turn it off temporarily just to see how it looks. So I can say, okay, well, do I like that or not? And then I can turn it back on. And you can also change where they are on the page. So let me show you. I'll add, for instance, a collage. And again, you can go in here and change all of these in here. So now I have that collage added, but say I want this below that. And so I can just drag it and drop it and change how it lays out on the site. Okay. So the important thing to know is that when you're in here, this is currently we're obviously working on the home page, and then you can be changing these things on the home page, but you can also change other pages and how they look. So the products page, collection page, the shopping cart, checkout, all that kind of stuff, blog posts, blogs, these are all customizable in here. So we're going to go, for instance, look at this, and I can change how this is designed. So right now the description is at the bottom, and it doesn't look like this has a description. But you can then move that. So like, for instance, if I wanted the buy button to be in a different spot, or I wanted the description to be above those buttons, I could do that. If I want to move the share buttons above the price, I can do that. You can remove these blocks if you don't want one. So if you don't want that share button there, all of that is adjustable. So you can actually add, for instance, the SKU. So if I wanted the SKU in here, and I wanted it near the title, I can do that. So I can add that here and then adjust that. So again, if I don't like it there, I can either hide it to see how it looks, or I can delete it. So there's other blocks you can put in here, as well as other sections on the page that you can adjust. And this will be the default product page. So same thing with collections. I can go in, and these are your category pages. So once you developed a category page, you can go in and change this. So I can say whether it has a banner or not. I can say, whether there's different sections on here. We can adjust the product grid to show, different layouts and that type of thing. Filtering, all that kind of stuff is adjustable. We would get into more detail on this in future videos, but I'm just giving you an overall view of how this works. So for instance, if we want to expand the number of products on here, we can do that, or even change it to be something else. We can show fewer or more, change the size of those based on how many we want in our individual row. Okay, you can see that gets a little silly looking after a while. So all that's adjustable, all these category pages. And then you can also do your checkout and cart by adding your logo and that type of thing. So there's limited amount of stuff that you can do in the shopping cart and checkout with the base Shopify. You don't really get control over the shopping cart process until you go up to Shopify Enterprise or Shopify Plus, which is expensive. You can also change, for instance, the blog posts and how those are laid out. So a lot of flexibility. Like I said, each theme is going to be different because you'll have different pages and different capabilities on all of these. So individual pages, this would be, let's get out of here. I'm not going to save those changes. The pages that you've developed here. So depending on your theme, sometimes they'll have a page that you can add here, like a contact page, but then you have to go change it and add content to it in the theme editor under the store, under the online store. So you wouldn't actually go into this page and add content to it, because really you're designing it in the online store. So the contact page is a good example. Let's go back and take a look at that. Go to pages, contact. And so we can change some of the stuff in here on the contact page, and we wouldn't be changing it necessarily directly in that page content. It's just creating the page for you. So the contact form, we can add some heading, we can add, make changes to it, padding, that type of stuff. Within here, we wouldn't do it in the pages section. Okay. Navigation is another important thing. And this is where you can have multiple menus. And also, depending on your theme, you can have mega menus and that kind of thing that you can manage through here. So you can choose what pages you want to add in here. So if we look at the site, take a look at it real quick. Oh, we didn't publish the theme, that's why. Let's publish that theme, and now we can look at it. And this would be password protected until you want to launch it and that kind of stuff. So you can see it's a different look and feel to this because it's using the test data. We didn't save any of those changes that we made in the theme when we were in there. So that's why it has the test data in here and stuff. Okay. But the navigation is going to be here. So the contact, catalog, that kind of stuff, you can change all of that in here. So for instance, you can go to the main menu, and it's one at the top, and you can see it says home, catalog. So if we wanted to call this shop now, and this just leads to all the products. So we'll show you how to create here in a second, how to create a collection. So in your products, there's a lot of information and data that you can have in here. Let's pull up this one, for instance. So adding products is really simple. You can actually do this through a spreadsheet. So you can upload spreadsheets of data, especially if you're migrating from some other type of platform. You can do that very easily in Shopify. So you can add your product description, you can add additional images, you can change your pricing, you can add your profit margin if you want to track that, for instance. You can actually also add the number of locations that it is. So depending on your plan, you can actually have multiple locations to where you're shipping this from. So for instance, if you have a warehouse and a store, you can choose the inventory levels for those. So if you know you have X amount in the store, you could actually choose to ship it from the store or whatnot. We won't go into a huge amount of detail in the product page other than just that you have a lot of flexibility in here. You're going to want to put, if you're shipping stuff, you're going to want to put in how much weight it is. If you have variants, like various sizes and colors, so say you're selling a t-shirt or something like that, and it comes in small, medium, and large, and whatever variants that might have, you can do that in here, change and add those variants. Okay. Again, we'll go into more data in that, but you can see you can change the available warehouse inventory. You can choose whether to continue selling if it's out of stock and that kind of thing. So, but what I wanted to show you in here too, well, a couple things really. So this is the name of your product. This is also going to show in the SEO if you haven't specified something different. So you can actually say like, no, I want it to actually say something else here, and that will be your slug in SEO, so that it'll be different from your title. If you don't put in a slug down there at the bottom, if you don't put in what you want it to say that might be different than this, it's just going to pull from this. And then you can add your meta description. Otherwise, it's going to put in what your product stuff information is. Google will pull it itself. But what is a nice little feature here is you can actually generate text here. So this uses AI, and you can put in some keywords, and it's going to generate a basis for a product description. So if you have a lot of products and they're, you're having a hard time writing product descriptions, this will give you at least something to work with. These are not necessarily the best, but you can then format this in here. You can add additional information. You can add, images in the product description if you wanted, or links to other stuff. The tags and collections, product type, this is all information that is going to be passed to Google if you're using Google Merchant and trying to do Google ads themselves, your store, Google Store ads. So adding this information is a good best practice. It's also going to help you with your categories, your collections. So you can see they already pre-populated this with some tags that are related to this product, like winter, sport, accessory. Maybe we add something that's snowboard. Okay. So now we have snowboard. We're going to save this. Oh, I started doing the variant, and there we go. So now we save that. Now if I want to go to collections, I can create a collection, and we're going to call it a snowboard. And I can either manually add products to this, or I can do it automated, which is the best way to do it. And so what you can do is you have enter business conditions here. So you could look at, for instance, the product title, the type, the vendor, or the tag. We put in a tag, and we know that it's snowboard. And so now this is going to pull in all products that have the tag snowboard into this collection. And this collection, you can view it, and it has snowboards in it. So that is the collection, and then we can add that, go back down here and add that to the navigation. So in the main menu, maybe we want to have a menu item that is snowboards, and then we add the link. And so we're going to add a collection of snowboards. And then you can filter that if you wanted to. So if you wanted to do specific types of products from that collection. You didn't want to have to create a collection that was for every different filter that you want. You could base this off of the tags as well. So, if you had specific tags about the size or something like that in there, you could do that for the navigation. And so now we have snowboards in there. We're going to save this and we're going to preview the site. And you can see now we have a link in the navigation to snowboards. Okay. Now, if you want to do a drop-down menu, you can just drag these here. So if I want this under Shop Now, I can drag it there and go over to the right. And now this is going to be nested under the Shop Now. And if I don't want that, I can pull it back out and move it again. But just to show you how that's done, so now I've nested that under Shop Now. This would be nested now under the Shop Now. I could do that with other types of navigational items as well. Like, for instance, if I had other pages or something like that, I could nest those under, something. So in the footer menu, right now there's only search. Let's see what they, maybe I want to add contact to the footer. So I'd go to pages, contact, and now the contact is going to be in the footer. And there it is, contact. So that's how you quickly go through and you can make navigational changes, and you can also make categories. Managing your products can be time consuming. So one of the things that you can do is bulk editing. So you can click bulk edit, and it essentially gives you a built-in spreadsheet. And so you can make changes and drag these. You can more easily go through rather than having to click into individual products. You can go through and edit these here. You can also add other columns for data that might not be in here. So like, for instance, I can add the tags, and this will let me go through and add tags pretty quickly and easily, as well as, change pricing or something like that. But this way I can start to categorize these a lot easier. If I have added a new category and I want to add tags to certain products, I can do that in here instead of going one by one through the other process. Inventory, this inventory management is pretty good. That way I can update this. If you do have the Shopify point of purchase app, it'll update as well with this. So if you sell something from a stand or from your store, it will update your inventory with that. So that's a nice feature to have as well. And then you can create purchase orders. So you can create a purchase order, or you can create an order. So if you have, for instance, a customer that calls or comes into your store or something like that and wants something, you can search your products and you can add that product to them. You can create the customer, or if they already exist in your database, we're going to use this fella. And so now we have this created. We have the whatever snowboard in here with the pricing. We can add a discount if we want. We can manually add shipping and that type of thing. We can either collect payment while we have them on the phone or in person, or we can send them an invoice. And so if we send an invoice, it'll just email them this, and then when they purchase it, they'd go through the regular purchasing process of clicking through and coming to your site, and it basically creates a shopping cart for them. And that way they can purchase that. Customer data. This comes in handy, for instance, if you want to start categorizing your customers. You can add tags to them. You can create categories for your customers that help with, for instance, email marketing, or just alerting internal staff about certain types of customers. So say you have, high buying customer, you want to make sure that you give them a discount, or maybe they're a wholesale customer or something like that. You can flag them and do that. You set up segments for them, and that will help you with your marketing activities, right? So you can actually start to send automated emails to them that they haven't purchased in the last 30 days, or they abandon a shopping cart or something like that. And you can start to segment your customers. And if they have, for instance, information in here that needs to be changed, so if they contact you and say, hey, could you change my email address, or maybe their physical address has changed, you can change all of that in here and manage that. Or if they have a privacy concern and they want you to remove your data, the data about them, you can do that as well. The discounts is another thing that is used a lot. And they do have a relatively sophisticated discount process where you can do certain product discounts. You can buy one, get one, or buy two, get one, that kind of thing. You can do a specific amount off an order. You can do a percentage, or you can give free shipping, for instance. And so this could be an automatic discount. So if they just get it automatically, or you can add a code and you can have them generate a code if you like. It could be for specific countries. So say if you're doing free shipping, but you don't want it to be available in outside of the US, you can set that up so that it's not valid. You can set minimum purchasing and whatnot. And you can set that it's available to all customers, specific customer segments, that's that grouping of customers that we talked about before, or a specific customer, it's only useful for them. And so this is where maybe you have a customer service situation and they didn't get their order on time or whatever, and you want to give them a specific code that's only useful for them. My kitten is attacking my speaker or my microphone. And if you haven't seen our kitten, by the way, he is available on our Instagram and you can see him. But yes, we have cats here in the office and they like to interfere with our work when we're doing videos. This is Loki, by the way. All right, Loki. So you can customize for specific customers. You can also add how many times they can use a coupon code. So if you gave somebody a specific coupon code, you don't want them to necessarily use it every time they order, but maybe just once. And you can also limit the amount used in general. So that is very flexible and gives you a lot of ability to set discounts for your customers. We touched on point of sale. Point of sale is very effective if you do any kind of stands, or if you have a physical store. Obviously that integrates with your inventory and with all the other good stuff that Shopify does, so that is helpful. And analytics is something that you're going to use a lot because it's going to tell you your orders and stuff. Now, when they talk about analytics, this is Shopify's analytics. So the sales, returns, anything that you do with a customer, so say somebody returned something or they canceled their order, all that kind of stuff is going to be reflected in here. That is one benefit that you don't have if you were using, say, Google Analytics or something like that. It's not going to necessarily reflect all of the information, live about cancellations and stuff. But it will show important metrics about average order size, value, your top selling products, that kind of stuff, returning customer rate. Like I said, it doesn't do a great job with your marketing programs. That would be, that would depend more on Google Analytics for that, or whether your analytics package of choice. And that would be where you want to do that. One of the things I forgot to mention was the pages. This is where you can add like your privacy policy and cookie policy and that kind of thing and put them in the footer. The reason I don't like to use just the default settings for this is they only show in the shopping cart. And so they're kind of difficult to link to, and they're not readily available in the footer. So when you're getting verified by certain advertising platforms like Facebook and Google and stuff like that, they want those to be visible. So having individual pages for those helps. But this is where you'd also set up like your About Us page, any custom pages like that if you want to do landing pages for certain promotions, that kind of stuff. The pages to add, if they're not built into the theme and you're using sections, are not the easiest to design. It is a very, stripped down kind of editor for adding content to those pages. But in most of the modern themes in Shopify, if you create a page, you can generally go in and customize it in that theme editor like we were showing for the contact page. So that is your pages. And then blog posts are basically exactly what you would expect. And again, these are pretty stripped down. So this is an editor that will let you put the content in and let you add some images. You can embed images and that kind of stuff in here. But it is not super sophisticated as far as layout and design and stuff like that. There are plugins for that if you really want to get into creating custom pages. There's a number of different plugins available in the App Store that give you a lot more control over the look and feel of your pages. But for just producing simple blogs, it's pretty straightforward. It's easy. You don't need to know HTML. And then you can have multiple blogs. So you could actually have different kinds of blogs. And then you can tag them and all that good kind of stuff. So that's pretty simple. Now, the other thing that we'll touch on is the settings. This is where you go in and select your plan. So the level of plan that you want in Shopify, your billing information, different users, payment processing. So Shopify has built-in payment processing through their system that I think it's like 2.9% or something like that they do for transactions. But this is where you can add things like PayPal and Amazon Pay and Google Pay and take all of those types of things. You can set that up in here. More checkout customization in here. This is where you can make requirements for, require first and last name, that kind of stuff. But this is the section where, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff is done, like setting up your taxes, which we highly recommend. So the tax stuff that is set up in here will automatically calculate your taxes that you need to charge based on your location. But you can actually customize that more. Your locations, so where your shop is, where your warehouse is, you can set those up in here. Whether you want to take gift cards, if you have just the base Shopify, I don't believe it allows you to do gift cards. I think you have to go up to like the next level of monthly payment to be able to take gift cards. And then so you can see you set up your domains in here, notifications, and then policies. So this is where I was talking about, you have like the return policies, and you have, refund, privacy, terms of service, all that kind of stuff. You can create them from templates in here that Shopify allows you to do. So that gives you something to work with. And so then you just have to go through and customize it. So once that is done in here, then you can add it also to a page. So, but I'm not going to save that. So those are your policies. Those are very important. People are going to wonder about, return policies and stuff like that. And this is also, if this were a live store, where we could add our domain and hook that up. Obviously, it's not available under this. So, and then shipping and delivery is the other one that it can get a little complex, and we will touch on this in more detail in the future. But this is where you can set up your different zones, your different base sizes for packages and local delivery and all that kind of stuff. So whether you're going to use USPS or whether you're going to use, DHL or UPS or whatever that is, this is where you would set all of that up. So if you have your own shipping providers, you can integrate that into this, or you can use the discounts that come with using Shopify. So one of the nice things about Shopify, for instance, if you use USPS, you're going to get a discounted rate than you would get if you just went to the post office yourself, or if you were buying stamps or something, or packaging labels yourself. If you buy the labels through the integrated system in Shopify, you'll actually get a significant reduction in price because of the volume that they do with USPS. So, but this is where, like I said, you'd set up your packages, your different sizes and stuff to be available depending on what you tend to sell. And then that way Shopify is able to calculate shipping and all that kind of stuff. And this is where you would set your shipping rates, whether it's free shipping or whether, that you have set fees that, they calculate the shipping rate, and then you can add on to it for packaging fees and processing fees and that kind of stuff. And that's where you do it all in here. Then once your site is live, like I said, your orders would be available in here. And this is where you start to do fulfillment on those orders. I don't have any in here right now, but we will show you a test site that will have fulfillment orders when we come out with the full course. And that way you can show the process for doing that. This is a quick run through. We coached it a lot. We will be doing other Shopify intros. So keep an eye out for those. We're going to get into more detail about each of these sections, about layout and setup and order processing and all that good kind of stuff, connecting apps. And so keep an eye out for that. If you have any questions, let us know. If you need help setting up your Shopify store, we are a Shopify partner. We do lots of e-commerce sites for customers, so we know the ins and outs of Shopify and can help you. So contact us today if that is something you're interested in. You can also go to our site. I'll put a link in our description that has a link to set up a 30-minute free consultation with me, and you can talk about what type of store you're setting up, what your needs are, and how we can help you. I hope this is helpful. Talk to you soon. We're going to be doing more Shopify stuff in the near future. We'll see you then.